Hey, what's up everybody? This is Nick Servideo. You're watching another episode of Skooled. Today I want to talk about the Ancient Celts. I love the Ancient Celts, and if you're Irish, Scottish, or Welsh, you should too. These are your ancient ancestors. The Celts inhabited the forests and mountains of Western Europe until they were eventually pushed back to the British Isles by the Romans. And they were headhunters. That's right, they were headhunters. They were a polytheistic people, meaning the belief in many gods as opposed to monotheistic, meaning the belief in one god. Just like polygamy, a lot of chicks, monogamy, one chick. So they believed the soul was in the head. So they would chop off their enemies' heads in battle and soak these heads in cedar oil. And then they would collect them and keep them in their house. In doing so, they believed they owned their enemy's souls. And if they really hated their enemy, they would cook and eat his brains to vanquish his soul. Their holy men were known as the Druids. You might have heard of Druids before. It means man of oak in ancient Gaelic. These holy men were exempt from going to war or paying taxes. In fact, today it's where we get our image of a wizard. They were elderly men with long white beards and white or gray cloaks. And they always carried an oak staff. And they believed these oak staffs had magical and curative powers. And that's where we get the idea of a wizard's wand today. Now, Celtic languages that are still spoken today are known as Gaelic languages. And that's because the largest Celtic kingdom that ever existed was Gaul in present-day France. Gaul was a thriving kingdom until it was conquered by Rome at the Battle of Alesia by Julius Caesar when he took on the Celtic general Vercingetorix. Now, most of what we know about the Celts is actually from the Romans because the Celts didn't leave many written records. And what the Romans wrote was they were so obsessed with war that after they conquered the Celts and assimilated the Celts into Roman culture, they paid them to be mercenaries in their army. And the Roman generals wrote about how they used to have to yell at the Celts and tell them to stop collecting heads and keep fighting. They were so obsessed with owning their enemy's souls. And they always wore a grayish blue war paint, which is why you see in the movie Braveheart him and his warriors with blue war paint. The Scottish are descendants of the ancient Celts. And in times of war and famine, they even committed human sacrifice. They would get a healthy young male, they would throttle him with a thin rope around his throat, hit him in the head with a pointed hammer, and cut across his stomach. And they would try to predict the future by what kind of convulsions he went into and how the blood spilled. One of the most enduring parts of Celtic culture today is the holiday Halloween. The Celts called it All Hallows Eve. And they believe that one day a year, all the evil spirits, dead, banshees, goblins, all that other crazy stuff that they believed in could walk the earth on that day only. Mostly because that was around the time of year that the leaves started to die, animals started to hibernate, birds started to migrate, so it seemed like it was bringing on a time of death. So to go about their day-to-day operations without being attacked by these things, they would dress up as these things. That's why we dress up on Halloween today. And they didn't have pumpkins, but they had turnips. So they would carve faces in these turnips and put candles in them and put them in their windows to ward off evil spirits. And that's where we get jack-o'-lanterns from. And there was one thing that they did that we definitely don't do today on Halloween. If you ever heard of the Wicker Man, it was a huge human figurine made out of wicker. They would stuff it full of all the criminals within their kingdom. Murderers, rapists, and so on. They would light it on fire and even dance around it from what Julius Caesar wrote. Now eventually after the fall of Rome, the Germanic barbarians came into England, conquered that area, and the Celtic people were pushed back to Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, where they still survive till this day. Soon after, they converted to Christianity. Everybody knows the story of St. Patrick, and the rest is content for another video for medieval times. If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave comments, engage with me. We'll be seeing you soon, man. This is Nick Servideo. This is another episode of Skooled.